No one ever touches that violin. Hector's voice echoed through the hall. Traumatic memories flashed before his eyes. Never. Almira quickly ran to Clara's side and pulled her daughter protectively behind her. I'm sorry, Mr. Henderson. Clara was just curious. Dear viewers of the Golden Heart Stories family, welcome. Today, I'm going to share with you an incredible story of how arrogance and humiliation transformed into love. A millionaire attempts to humiliate his housekeeper in front of 500 guests. What happens afterwards will shock you. In this story, you'll experience tears, anger, surprise, and finally, heartwarming moments. There are past traumas, lost loves, and forgotten talents. The real question is, can people really change? Are you ready? Because the ending of this story will be very different from where it began. Dear viewers, please rate the story from 1 to 10 at the end and share your thoughts in the comments. Your comments are valuable to me. Now let's begin. Enjoy watching. Everything must be perfect tonight, Elena, said Hector Henderson as he gave instructions to his assistant, Elena Rodriguez, while walking around the spacious hall of his luxury villa in Chicago's Lincoln Park district. The 35-year-old tech millionaire knew that tonight's party for 500 people would be the most critical moment of his career. Elena nodded while taking notes on her tablet. Senator Williams's special dietary needs have been handled. The special VIP area for Thomas Foster's new investors has been prepared. The most valuable bottles from the wine collection have been selected. Good, Hector said, raising his crystal whiskey glass. Through the large windows, Chicago's glittering skyline was visible. Tonight, Chicago's most powerful people will be here. I accept no mistakes. The villa was bustling with activity at that moment. Chefs were making final preparations in the kitchen, waiters were checking table arrangements, and musicians were tuning their instruments. Every detail had to be flawless. Thomas Foster, Hector's most trusted business partner, entered the hall. The 50-year-old man had reviewed the list of potential investors they would meet that night. Hector, the Japanese are coming with impressive offers. The European delegation is also talking big numbers. Perfect, Thomas. We can't miss these deals, Hector said with a smile. Our company will reach a new dimension. Elena looked up from her phone. The first guests have arrived. Margaret Crawford just reached the door. Margaret Crawford? Thomas was surprised. She's Chicago's most powerful art patron. Why did she come? I invited her, Hector explained proudly. We need support from the art world, too. It's important for our company image. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Almira Bennett had never seen such a large organization in the house where she had worked for the past 2 years. The 28-year-old was giving instructions to waiters and preparing serving plates to ensure that everything went smoothly. Mom, there are so many people here. 7-year-old Clara Bennett wandered curiously around her mother. The little girl was seeing the crowded villa for the first time. Clara, sweetheart, please stay away from the kitchen. We're busy right now, Almira said, drying her hands with a towel. Very important guests are coming tonight. Guests had started arriving. Senators, businessmen, art patrons, and Chicago's social elite flocked to Hector's villa. Rebecca Henderson, the 32-year-old art gallery owner, came to her brother's side. Hector, the party looks wonderful, she said, smiling. I didn't know you would organize such a large event. Big dreams require big risks, Hector said, sharing his pride with his sister. By the end of tonight, we'll be Chicago's biggest tech company. Bored with her mother's busyness, Clara had escaped toward the hall. The paintings on the walls, the sculptures, and especially the antique violin in the corner caught her attention. The violin hung in a beautiful glass case in the most special place on the wall. Mom, this is so beautiful! Clara looked at the violin admiringly. Almira, hearing Clara's voice, ran in panic. When she came out of the kitchen and entered the hall, she saw her daughter approaching the violin. Clara, don't touch that. Come here immediately. But it was too late. Clara's little fingers had already touched the glass case and the violin. What are you doing? Hector's voice shook the entire villa. He quickly walked toward Clara, leaving his conversation with Thomas unfinished. His eyes blazed and his face turned bright red. 500 guests turned around at once. Margaret Crawford, Senator Williams, David Anderson, and Patricia Moore were among those watching this outburst in astonishment. Conversations stopped. Music stopped. Glasses remained suspended in the air. "And no one ever touches that violin." Hector's voice echoed through the hall. Traumatic memories flashed before his eyes. "Never." Almira quickly ran to Clara's side and pulled her daughter protectively behind her. "I'm sorry, Mr. Henderson. Clara was just curious." "No. This is unacceptable." A cruel light appeared in Hector's eyes. "You play it. Come on. Show your incompetence in front of 500 people." Elena was secretly pleased, Thomas was worried, Rebecca was surprised, and Margaret was curious. The silence in the hall was suffocating. 500 pairs of eyes turned to Almira. Hector continued mercilessly. "Come on. Let's see how you'll embarrass yourself. If you're so curious, play it." "Please, Mr. Henderson." Almira's voice was a mere whisper. Her hands trembled. "I said play." Hector's shout made one of the crystal glasses in the hall ring. "Who do you think you are? You're just my housekeeper. You're nothing in my house. How dare you touch that violin?" Almira's eyes filled with tears. Clara clung tightly to her mother's skirt, watching her father's outburst in fear. The guests were shocked by this savage humiliation, yet no one intervened. "Now play." Hector smiled cruelly. "Show these 500 people how inadequate you are. Maybe then you'll learn to never touch that violin again." Almira's hand reached toward the violin. She had no other choice. She couldn't afford to lose her job. Clara's future was at risk. Trembling, she took the violin in her hand. Her hands trembled so violently that she thought she would drop the bow. 500 pairs of eyes looked at her. An expectant, yet merciless, silence filled the hall. Hector's cruel smile, the guests' curious stares, and Elena's secret satisfaction were all trying to crush her. She looked at Clara's frightened yet trusting face. The little girl believed in her mother and tried to give her courage with her gaze. Almira took a deep breath. She had to be strong for her daughter. She wouldn't bow down to this humiliation. The moment the bow met the strings, time stopped. The first notes of Paganini's Caprice No. 24 rose in the hall. Almira's fingers danced on the strings as if the past 2 years of cleaning work had never happened. The days at DePaul University, the late hours spent playing with James Mitchell, her professor's admiration, everything she had lost, it was all coming back. Within the first 10 seconds, the atmosphere of the hall completely changed. Margaret Crawford held her breath, almost dropping her crystal glass. "My God," she whispered to herself. "This melody, this technique, this passion. This was impossible. A housekeeper couldn't play like this." The music continued to enchant the room. Thomas Foster had interrupted his critical business conversation with the Japanese delegation to watch Almira in fascination. Elena Rodriguez stood with her mouth agape, astonished. How was this possible? Was this the same person who cleaned toilets in the morning? Rebecca Henderson looked at her brother. Hector's face had paled. The cruel smile in his eyes had given way to astonishment. There was anger, but underneath, something else. Fear? Worry? The music intensified. Almira was no longer in this world. In DePaul's concert hall, she was 22 years old with the whole world at her feet. Her professors called her a genius, and James Mitchell looked at her with loving eyes. Her fingers moved at incredible speeds, and every note was perfect. Technical difficulties were like child's play. "Impossible," Margaret Crawford murmured louder. The guests around her turned to her. "Who is this woman? How is this possible?" Patricia Moore, the Chicago Tribune's music critic, took out her phone and started recording. She had to document this performance. David Anderson, the famous music producer, couldn't take his eyes off Almira as calculations ran through his mind. No one in the hall moved anymore. Waiters had frozen, plates in hand. Senator Williams had abandoned even his most critical political speech to focus on the music. Clara smiled proudly, watching her mother and knowing that the other children's mothers couldn't play like this. When the music reached its climax, A door opened wide in Margaret Crawford's memory. This face, these fingers, this passion, this technique. Photos in university newspapers, interviews in music magazines. That young girl's bright future. Almighty, she exclaimed, standing up. This is Almira Bennett, DePaul University's genius. The name exploded like a bomb in the hall. Whispers began circulating through the room. Almira Bennett? Who is she? From DePaul. Missing. Victoria Foster took out her cell phone and began searching urgently. Find James Mitchell, she whispered urgently to her assistant. Find him immediately. This is very important. Dr. Robert Taylor, a music professor at Northwestern, approached Margaret. Almira Bennett. Yes, I remember her. She disappeared years ago. She was one of the brightest students. What happened to her? David Anderson took note. I urgently need to speak with her. Talent at this level can't just be found. When the music ended with a grand finale, deathly silence filled the hall. Almira slowly lowered her violin. Her hands were still trembling, but for a different reason this time. Then, the applause exploded. A standing ovation. 500 people at Chicago's most prestigious party were giving a standing ovation to the housekeeper they had just humiliated. Margaret Crawford applauded with tears in her eyes. Bravo! Magnificent! Bravo! Cards began flying through the air. You must speak with me. I have an offer for you. This is wonderful. Incredible. David Anderson was the first to reach her. Madam, I am David Anderson. I urgently need to speak with you. This performance was legendary. Patricia Moore was quickly taking note. This performance will be on the front page tomorrow. Chicago's lost genius has returned. Thomas Foster looked at Hector with concern. The night had taken a completely different direction. The main topic of conversation at the party would now be Almira, not business deals. Clara ran to her mother's side. Mom, it was so beautiful. Everyone loved you so much. You're the best, Mom. But when Hector approached them, the atmosphere froze. His eyes blazed. He couldn't stand having his plan turned upside down. Everyone be quiet, he shouted uncontrollably. The applause slowed and everyone turned to him. The party is over. Everyone go home. Margaret Crawford objected. Hector, this woman is magnificent. This woman is my servant. Hector's voice cracked. And now she has overstepped her duties. The guests began to disperse uneasily. Margaret squeezed her card into Almira's hand. Call me, she whispered. This isn't over. After the last guest left, the hall fell silent. You embarrassed me. Hector walked toward Almira. You're nothing. You're just my housekeeper. The next morning, Margaret Crawford sat at her laptop in her private office in Chicago, conducting comprehensive research on Almira Bennett. She had spent the night without sleeping. That performance wouldn't leave her mind. She examined DePaul University's music department records, enlarged old photos, and read archived news articles. Here it is. Margaret had found an old Chicago Tribune article. From 2019. DePaul's brightest star, Almira Bennett, enchanted in duet concert with James Mitchell. The young woman in the photo was definitely Almira, who had played the violin the previous night. Next to her was a handsome young man, James Mitchell. Margaret immediately called her assistant. Sarah, find James Mitchell. Where is he now? What is he doing? How can I reach him? Also, I want all records of Almira Bennett after 2019. Why did she disappear? Meanwhile, it was a tense morning at Hector's villa. Elena Rodriguez stood in front of Hector in his office, expressing her concerns about the previous night. Sir, there's a lot of talk about this woman on social media. The video went viral. Everyone is talking about her. I don't care, Elena, Hector responded coldly. She's just a housekeeper and she'll stay that way. Elena, who had hidden her love for Hector for years, tried to hide her discomfort with Almira. But, sir, this woman could overshadow your image. People have started questioning how you treat your staff. I make the rules in my house. Hector slammed his fist on the desk. That woman overstepped her bounds. At that time, Almira was preparing Clara's breakfast in the kitchen. The little girl had spent the night excitedly talking about her mother's performance. "Mom, you're the world's best violinist. Everyone was saying so." "Sweetheart, that was just a temporary moment," Almira said, trying to smile. "Now everything is back to normal." But Hector appeared at the door. "Of course it's back to normal. You're still my housekeeper, Almira. Last night's circus didn't change anything. You clean the bathrooms, cook, and do the laundry. That's your reality." Almira bowed her head. "Yes, Mr. Henderson. If you touch that violin again, you and your daughter will be thrown out of this house." Hector continued mercilessly. "Do you understand?" That morning, Victoria Foster, one of Chicago's most famous socialites, was having breakfast with her friends at the golf club. The topic was naturally Almira. "Ladies, I'll never forget last night. That woman was extraordinary. How did Hector hire her as a housekeeper? Maybe he didn't know about her talents?" Margaret Stevens suggested. "Impossible. Talent at that level can't be hidden," Victoria said as she took out her phone. "I researched James Mitchell. He currently lives in New York and gives regular concerts at Lincoln Center. He's married and has 2 children. Did you find out what happened to Almira?" Patricia Moore asked. "I'm investigating. But one thing is certain, that woman is hiding a big secret." Meanwhile, Rebecca Henderson came to visit Hector at the villa. When she entered her brother's office, she found him looking sour. "Hector, I want to talk about last night's party." "There's nothing to talk about," Hector said, shuffling through files. "There is. About how you treated that woman," Rebecca said, sitting down. "Hector, that woman is talented. Did you notice her? Did you see how she played last night? She's just a housekeeper." "No, she's not. You know it too." Rebecca raised her voice. "Brother, don't lose this girl. You can't afford to lose someone with her talent." "I'm not trying to keep her." "You are. And you know why," she said, looking at the violin on the wall. "Because of that violin. Because of your childhood trauma." Hector's face tensed. "Don't bring up that subject." "I will. You were humiliated at that school concert when you were 8 years old. I remember it all. The string breaking while you were playing the violin, your stage fright, and the children laughing. You've hated the violin ever since." "Rebecca, shut up." "I'm shutting up, but know this. That woman's talent makes you jealous. She plays perfectly, something you could never do. It hurts your ego." Meanwhile, Margaret Crawford had made an important discovery in her research. Almira Bennett's name didn't appear in the 2019 DePaul University graduation ceremony program. The last record was of the concert she gave with James Mitchell in the spring of 2019. Then, the trail went cold. "Sarah," Margaret called her assistant. "Did you find any information about Almira Bennett's family?" "Yes, ma'am. Her mother and father died in a car accident at the end of 2019. Almira was pregnant at the time. After losing her family, she dropped out of school." "Pregnant? Who was the father?" "The records don't specify, but the timing matches up with James Mitchell." Margaret smiled thoughtfully. "Interesting. Very interesting." At that time, Elena was making one last attempt in Hector's room. "Sir, could we please transfer that woman somewhere else? I don't think it will benefit you for her to stay in this house." "Why are you so interested, Elena?" Hector looked at her suspiciously. Elena blushed. "I'm just thinking about your image. People are talking. Let them talk. Almira will stay here and continue working as a housekeeper." Elena tried to suppress her jealousy. She had loved Hector for years, but had never seen hope. Now, a housekeeper was attracting Hector's attention. This was unacceptable. That evening, after putting Clara to bed, Almira held Margaret Crawford's card. She was undecided about whether to call. The opportunity was unmissable, but she was afraid of Hector's reaction. She picked up the phone and dialed the number. "Margaret Crawford speaking. Mrs. Crawford, this is Almira Bennett. You gave me your card last night." "Almira. I was waiting for you, dear. I urgently need to speak with you. What secret of Almira's do you think Margaret's investigation will reveal?" Let's discuss it in the comment. If you like the direction of the story, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss our other stories. After her phone conversation with Margaret Crawford, Almira felt hopeful for the first time in years. The next morning, she started her normal routine, but Margaret's words echoed in her head. "You are a magnificent talent, Almira. Chicago needs you." Hector came out of his office and went to the kitchen that morning. The anger from the previous day still blazed in his eyes. "Almira, who did you call last night?" Almira dried the plates with trembling hands. "I didn't talk to anyone, sir." "Don't lie to me. I saw you talking on the phone." Hector raised his voice. "Who was calling you? Was it Margaret Crawford?" "Mr. Henderson." "Shut up." Hector slammed his fist on the table. "Who do you think you are? Do you think that last night's circus made you important?" Clara entered the kitchen with her school bag on her shoulder. "Mom, am I ready?" "Clara, go to your room." Hector shouted at the child. "There's no talking here." "Don't shout at her." Almira stood up to Hector for the first time. "She's just a child." Hector's eyes flashed dangerously. "Are you trying to teach me how to talk?" "Who are you, woman?" "I am." Almira hesitated. "You are nobody." Hector approached. "You are my property. I use you however I want. I make you do whatever work I want. I make you work whatever hours I want." Elena was secretly watching from the office door and was inwardly pleased. Finally, Hector was telling that woman the truth. "Last night's performance means nothing," Hector continued. "You're just an object of entertainment. People watched you because they found you strange. A housekeeper who plays the violin. How funny." "Enough!" Almira exploded. "Enough already." The entire villa shook from her scream. Elena was surprised and Clara froze on the stairs. "For 2 years, I've endured your humiliations." Almira's eyes welled up. "You've insulted and belittled me. You haven't treated me like a human. But I can't stand it anymore. How dare you?" "I am Almira Bennett," Almira said, chest out. "I'm a DePaul University graduate. I am talented and valuable, and I'm not your property." Hector stepped back in astonishment. Almira had never opposed him like this before. "I'm leaving. From this house, from this job, from your tyranny." Almira clapped her hands. "Come, Clara. Let's pack our things." "Where will you go?" Hector laughed mockingly. "You have no money, no house, nowhere to go." At that moment the doorbell rang. Elena opened the door and saw Margaret Crawford. The elegant elderly woman entered with determined steps and flowers in her hand. "Almira," Margaret called out. "Where are you, dear?" "Mrs. Crawford." Almira rushed from the kitchen. "You! I said I would come. How are you?" Margaret's eyes caught sight of Hector's angry face. "Is there a problem?" "No, just," Almira began. "Yes, there is a problem," Hector interrupted. "This woman is quitting her job. She's so ungrateful." Margaret Crawford looked at Hector with a cold smile. "Young man, this woman is a genius. It's shameful to treat her this way. In my house." Margaret ignored Hector. "I'm going to help you. I've arranged a beautiful house for you and Clara. It's in Lincoln Park, a safe neighborhood." Elena's face paled. "Mrs. Crawford, you shouldn't interfere." "I will interfere," Margaret said authoritatively. "I'm 70 years old, and I'm respected in Chicago. I will help this woman." Almira hugged Margaret, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. Almira, go pack your things. I'll wait here." Margaret sat in the chair. Almira and Clara went upstairs and began packing their belongings. Clara was excited. "Mom, will we have a new house?" "Yes, sweetheart. A new beginning." Downstairs, Margaret confronted Hector. "You've lost this woman, young man." "I don't care." "You do care. You love music, but you can't play it. That makes you jealous." Hector fell silent. Elena called Rebecca and informed her of the situation. Rebecca came immediately. "What's happening here?" "Almira is leaving," Elena announced with satisfaction. "What?" Rebecca was shocked. "Hector, what have you done?" "I did what was necessary," Hector replied stubbornly. Rebecca looked at her brother. There was anger in his eyes, but also sadness underneath. "You're making a big mistake." Almira and Clara came downstairs with their suitcases. Margaret stood up. "Are you ready?" "Yes," Almira said, looking at Hector one last time. "Goodbye, Mr. Henderson." Hector didn't respond. Elena smiled secretly. Rebecca saw Almira off with a sad look. "Almira," Rebecca said, approaching her. "I'm sorry. My brother is making a mistake." "Thank you, Rebecca. You were always kind." After Margaret, Almira, and Clara left, a strange silence fell over the villa. Elena was pleased, but she tried not to show it. Rebecca continued to look at her brother. "Are you happy now?" Rebecca asked. Hector didn't answer. He watched Margaret's car drive away from the window. For the first time in his 35 years, he began to feel truly lonely. The villa had never been this quiet that evening. Hector sat alone at the dining table. He missed the meals Almira used to prepare. He missed Clara's cheerful voice. But he would never admit it. When Elena asked, "Sir, shall I prepare your dinner?" Hector just nodded. For the first time, he felt like a stranger in his own home. In the beautiful house in Lincoln Park, Almira breathed peacefully for the first time in years. Margaret Crawford had arranged for them to stay in an elegant house with 3 bedrooms, a garden, and, most importantly, a bright Yamaha piano in the large living room. Clara ran around the house the first night, constantly asking, "Mom, is this really our house?" "Yes, sweetheart. This is our house for now," Almira said, stroking her daughter's hair. "No one will yell at us anymore." The next morning, Margaret came to visit early. She had a thick file in her hands. "Almira, would you like to see the plans I've prepared for you?" "Of course, Mrs. Crawford. First, I've arranged a small concert at the Chicago Symphony Hall. It's just a 200-seat hall to introduce you," Margaret explained excitedly. "Then, you can teach master classes at Northwestern University. David Anderson is also eager to do a studio recording." Almira's eyes welled up. "So many things. Do I deserve this?" "Darling, you're incredibly talented. Now it's time to show the world." The rehearsal process began. Sarah Williams, one of Chicago's most respected violin teachers, had agreed to provide technical support to Almira. "Almira, the fact that you haven't played the violin for 2 years doesn't matter at all. Your talent is still here," said Sarah as she examined Almira's fingers. "We just need to strengthen our muscles a bit." During the first week of rehearsals, Almira's fingers hurt, but they grew stronger each day. Clara watched the rehearsals after school to support her mother. "Mom, you play so beautifully. Can I learn too?" "Of course, sweetheart. Miss Sarah can teach you too." Meanwhile, Margaret brought important news. "Almira, I heard that James Mitchell is coming to Chicago. He wants to hear you." Almira's heart raced. "James. Clara's father. When is he coming?" "Next week. Are you ready to face him?" "I don't know. He left me, Margaret. He ran away when he found out I was pregnant. But Clara has the right to know her father. Maybe he's changed." During the preparations for the concert, Almira also started earning money. She played at small events and gave private lessons. She felt independent for the first time. "Clara, look what I bought for you," Almira said, showing her daughter a new violin set. "Now you have your own violin." Meanwhile, a very different atmosphere prevailed in Hector's villa. Elena arrived early and left late every day, striving to be the perfect assistant to Hector. "Sir, shall I prepare your dinner?" she constantly offered. Hector sat at his desk looking at the computer screen, but he couldn't concentrate. "Elena, Almira. I mean my former maid. How is she?" "I don't know, sir." "Why are you curious?" Elena asked hopefully. "I'm not curious. It's just that the house is very quiet." Elena took advantage of this opportunity. "Sir, maybe we could have dinner together? It must be sad to eat alone." Hector thought. "Okay, Elena. Why not?" That evening, Elena prepared especially for the occasion. It was time to reveal her love for Hector. Sitting across from him at the dinner table was her dream. "Sir, I want to tell you something," she said, putting down her fork and knife. "What is it, Elena?" I have special feelings for you. 4 years. Hector was surprised. Elena, I know workplace relationships are complicated. But you're alone and so am I. Maybe we're a good match. Hector looked at Elena. She was a beautiful, loyal, and intelligent woman. But, Elena, you're a wonderful woman, but... You miss that woman, Elena finished with a bitter smile. The cleaning lady, Almira. No. It's not like that. It is, sir. It's obvious from your eyes. You've been different ever since she left. Hector tried to deny it, but Elena was right. The villa felt too big without Almira. He used to wait for Clara's cheerful voice in the mornings. He missed the breakfasts Almira used to prepare. Sarah Williams was trying to provide more opportunities for Almira. Almira, I have an offer for you. Part-time teaching at the Chicago Youth Orchestra. You'll earn money and gain experience. Really? That's wonderful. Mrs. Margaret is also making big plans for you. There's even an offer from the Lincoln Center. Almira was amazed. Lincoln Center? From New York. Yes, dear. You're now playing in the big leagues. Clara was also proud of her mother's success. She bragged to her friends at school, "My mom is a famous musician." One evening, Margaret came with important news. Almira, James Mitchell's appointment is confirmed. He'll be here tomorrow afternoon. I don't know if I'm ready, Margaret. You're a strong woman. Besides, Clara has the right to know her father. That night, Almira couldn't sleep. What would she talk about with James? How would she introduce Clara to her father? Most importantly, why was James returning now? Hector couldn't sleep either. Elena's words echoed in his head. Did he really miss Almira? No, that was impossible. She was just a cleaning lady. But deep down, he knew Elena was right. He missed Almira. Very much. 200 people had gathered in the small hall of the Chicago Symphony Center to watch Almira's first official concert. Margaret Crawford sat in the front row, watching the stage with pride. Clara waited excitedly for her mother next to Sarah Williams. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Almira Bennett," the announcer said. When Almira took the stage, there was complete silence. She began playing Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 3. When the music filled the hall, the audience was mesmerized. This time was different. She wasn't playing under duress but by her own will to showcase her talent. The concert received great applause. Immediately after the concert, Patricia Moore, music editor of the Chicago Tribune, interviewed Almira. "Ms. Bennett, this performance was extraordinary. Could you tell us where you've been?" "I went through difficult times, Patricia. But music always kept me going. Now I feel reborn." After the concert, Margaret launched the media strategy. Almira's story must be heard. It will be talked about everywhere with the headline, "Chicago's Lost Genius Returns." David Anderson approached Almira after the concert. "This is just the beginning. I have some great offers for you. It's time to record an album." Meanwhile, James Mitchell had landed in Chicago. The 45-year-old famous violinist was nervous as he left the airport. Seeing Almira meeting Clara, it was time to face the truths he had been running from for years. At Margaret's house, Almira was waiting for James to arrive. Clara had returned from school and asked, "Mom, why are you so nervous?" "Sweetheart, I'm going to introduce you to someone important. He is your father." Clara's eyes widened. "My father? My real father?" When the doorbell rang, Almira's heart raced. James Mitchell was standing at the door, after years. He was even more handsome, but there was regret in his eyes. "Almira," he said, unable to find his voice. "James, come in." Clara stood behind her mother, watching this stranger with curiosity. When James saw his daughter for the first time, tears filled his eyes. Is that Clara?" "Yes, your daughter. Our daughter." James knelt down. "Clara, I'm your father. I'm sorry we're meeting so late." Clara looked at her mother nervously. "Mom, is he really my father?" "Yes, sweetheart." While James tried to talk to his daughter, Almira watched him. "Why did you come back, James? After 7 years?" "Because I heard news about you. I heard that you were performing concerts in Chicago and that you were successful. I wanted to see Clara. Didn't you ever wonder about her?" I wonder about her every day, Almira. But I was scared. I thought I couldn't pay the price for my mistakes. Meanwhile, a very different scene was taking place at Hector's villa. Rebecca had come to visit her brother and found him watching television, but the news about Almira's concert was on the screen. "Hector, what are you doing?" Rebecca asked, surprised. Hector quickly changed the channel. "Nothing. I was just watching the news." "Are you watching Almira's news?" Rebecca smiled. "You miss her." "Don't be ridiculous, Rebecca." "I'm not being ridiculous. It's obvious from the look in your eyes. You're in love with her, and you realize you made a big mistake." Hector couldn't speak. Rebecca was right, and he knew it. "Brother, you made a mistake. You lost a wonderful woman. Now she's becoming successful, and you're regretting it." Elena observed Hector's behavior in the office. Since her confession of love at dinner that evening, Hector had been very distracted. His mind was elsewhere during their conversations. He couldn't focus on work. "Sir, you're very distracted today. Is there a problem?" Elena asked. "No, Elena. Everything is fine." But Elena knew Hector was lying. She had observed his reaction when Almira's news came out. He tried to act disinterested, but he didn't succeed. Patricia Moore's article in the Chicago Tribune shook the city. Chicago's Lost Genius Returns, Almira Bennett's incredible story. The article covered everything from Almira's time at DePaul to her work at Hector's house and her discovery on concert night. Ms. Bennett is not only a wonderful musician, but also a strong mother fighting to survive. While raising her daughter alone, she never lost her talent. The article caused quite a stir in Chicago. Phone calls poured into Hector's company. People asked, "How did you treat this woman?" Thomas Foster approached Hector with concern. "Hector, this is becoming a PR disaster. Our company image is being shaken." "What do you want us to do, Thomas?" "Apologize. Make a public statement. Admit this mistake." Elena watched these developments, noticing that Hector thought about Almira more and more. Since she had confessed her love to him, he had never behaved romantically. It was as if his mind was always elsewhere. Margaret advised Almira after watching James and Clara meet. "Almira, it's obvious that James is sorry. But don't rush. Put Clara's feelings first. I don't know what Clara thinks. She needs time. Having a father figure around would be good for her." After meeting Clara, James wanted to talk to Almira. "Almira, I made a terrible mistake. Leaving you and not knowing about Clara. James, the past is in the past. Now, Clara's future is important. I want to be with you. I want to rebuild our family." Almira was surprised. She wasn't expecting this offer. Most importantly, though, she wasn't sure if she wanted it. That evening, Hector thought about Almira in his bed. He missed her voice, her smile, and her love for Clara. For the first time in his life, he admitted that he had made a big mistake. "Do you think James is right? Does he have the right to be Clara's father, or did he lose that right by being absent for 7 years? Share your thoughts in the comments. Almira's life was changing rapidly. Her teaching position at the Chicago Youth Orchestra, her weekly concerts, and her private lesson students kept her busy and strengthened her financially. With Margaret Crawford's support, Almira now had thousands of social media followers, and her performances received great attention. "Almira, we've received interview requests from 3 different newspapers this week," Margaret announced excitedly. "Chicago Magazine wants to do a cover story. You're becoming truly famous now. Sometimes it doesn't feel real, Margaret. 2 months ago, I was cleaning toilets. Now, I'm getting offers from the Lincoln Center. This is your due, dear. Talented people should take their deserved place." Almira's growing confidence also made Clara proud. The little girl bragged to her friends at school, "My mom is on TV." However, James Mitchell's presence was beginning to complicate the situation. He visited Clara daily, showering her with expensive gifts and wanting to spend more and more time with her. One evening, James presented his offer. "Almira, I want to bring Clara to New York. She could join the children's orchestra at Lincoln Center. She would receive the best education. James, Clara's home is here. Her friends in school are here. But I'm her father. I want to spend time with her. Besides, you would have much better opportunities in New York. Almira was worried. James's offers seemed reasonable, but an inner voice told her to be careful. Meanwhile, a completely different atmosphere prevailed in Hector's villa. Thomas Foster had held an urgent meeting with Hector about the company's PR situation. Hector, the Almira Bennett issue is hurting our company. People on social media are criticizing us, Thomas said, showing files. But, paradoxically, this situation is improving our image. How so? Hector asked, surprised. People see that you've changed and that you're sorry. It makes you seem more human. Our stock prices have risen. Absurd, Hector muttered. No, Hector, it's real. People love redemption stories. You've transformed from a villain into a reformed character. Elena listened to this conversation from outside, feeling uncomfortable. Hector's growing interest in Almira wasn't good for her. That evening, Hector sat alone in front of the violin display case. Childhood memories came to mind. He remembered the days when his mother took him to violin lessons when he was 8 years old. That terrible school concert. Stage fright. The broken string. Children's laughter. I loved music too, he whispered to himself. Until everything was ruined that night. Rebecca's words echoed in his head. You miss that woman, Hector. You know you made a big mistake. Margaret was making big plans for Almira. Darling, we received a definite offer from Lincoln Center. A 5,000-seat concert hall. This will be the peak of your career. 5,000 people? Almira held her breath. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra will accompany you. This is a dream come true. David Anderson had also brought the details of a recording contract. Almira, I'm offering you a $500,000 advance for your first album. International distribution is included. Almira's head was spinning. These figures were beyond her wildest dreams. Hector had been following the news of Almira's success in the media. Every time he saw a story, his regret increased. She had this talent while working in my house. How could I not see it? One day, Elena caught Hector watching Almira's concert videos. Sir, you're still watching her. Elena, this is business research. No, sir. This is longing. You love her. Hector's silence gave Elena her answer. Thomas Foster approached the topic from another angle. Hector, have you considered apologizing to Almira from a public relations perspective? This would be a big PR coup. Apologize. Hector's pride was hurt. Yes, it would have a significant impact on the media. Billionaire apologizes to former maid headlines would be very powerful. Hector began to seriously consider calling Almira for the first time. But what would he say? I'm sorry. I treated you very badly? Would that be enough? That night, he called Rebecca. Rebecca, I have a question. Sure, brother. How can I contact Almira? Can I call her and talk? Rebecca smiled. Finally. Yes, let me give you Margaret Crawford's number. She can arrange it. But I don't know what to say. Speak from your heart, Hector. Be humble. You made some big mistakes. Elena's heart broke when she overheard Hector's phone conversation. She now knew for certain that he truly loved Almira. Margaret brought news of a sponsorship for Almira for the big concert. Almira, sponsorship offers are coming from Chicago's biggest companies. Henderson Tech is among them, too. Henderson Tech? Almira was surprised. Hector's company? Yes, Thomas Foster made contact. They're offering a big sponsorship. Almira experienced mixed emotions. Did Hector's company really want to support her? How was this possible? That night, Hector tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. He missed Almira's voice. He missed Clara's laughing face. For the first time in his life, he admitted that he was truly in love. I'll call her tomorrow, he decided. Whatever happens, I'll call her. When Rebecca came to visit Hector, she found him sitting in front of the violin display case again. This time was different. He looked genuinely thoughtful and melancholy. Hector, why is that violin still hanging on the wall when you hate it so much? Rebecca sat down in the chair. To remind me, Hector said, taking a deep breath. So I won't forget what I experienced that night. Which night? Hector decided to share that traumatic memory for the first time in years. I was 8 years old. Our mother had enrolled me in Northwestern's children's orchestra. I never wanted to, but she insisted. She used to say, "The Henderson family loves art." Rebecca listened silently. At the spring concert, I was trembling from stage fright in the 500-person hall. When I started playing the violin, my hands were sweaty. Right at the climax, one of the strings on my violin broke. That horrible sound. I started crying on stage. Hector. The kids made fun of me for months. They called me Crybaby Hector and Broken Violin Hector. I never touched the violin again after that day. I made a promise to myself. I would never appear weak again. I would control everyone. Rebecca held her brother's hand. But that was an incorrectly learned lesson. Music doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. When Almira played that night, she was doing so easily what I could never do. I felt both admiration and jealousy. You still love music. It's obvious from your eyes. You're just protecting yourself. Meanwhile, at Margaret's house, Almira was rehearsing intensely for the big concert at Symphony Center. The 5,000-seat hall and the Chicago Symphony Orchestra would accompany her. It was the biggest moment of her career. "This concert will make you famous," Sarah Williams said, struggling with the sheet music. "Even the New York Times is coming." "Sometimes I can't breathe thinking about how big it is," Almira said, resting her violin. "You're ready. All you need is to believe in yourself." James tried to spend more and more time with Clara every day. He took her to the park and to expensive dinners and constantly bought her gifts. "Clara, we could have such a nice father-daughter time in New York," James said, playing with the little girl. "There are huge toy stores there." "But my mom is here. I can't leave her," Clara said, looking at him with innocent eyes. "Of course your mom would come too. We could be a family again. Like we used to be." Clara was confused. This man was really her father, but she didn't know him at all. She had noticed that her mother didn't talk about him much. Elena was observing Hector's behavioral changes at the office. He wasn't showing any interest in her anymore. The closeness she had hoped for after confessing her love never materialized. In fact, Hector had become even more distant. "Sir, maybe we could take a coffee break?" Elena made one last attempt. "Elena, I'm busy," Hector said, continuing to look at the screen. Elena realized at that moment that Hector's heart belonged entirely to Almira. She had no chance. "Sir, I'm thinking of resigning," Elena said, swallowing hard. Hector looked up in surprise. "Why, Elena? You're a perfect assistant." "Because I'm in love with you, but you love someone else. It's very hard for me." Hector softened in the face of Elena's sincerity. "Elena, you're a wonderful woman. You'll find someone who will love you the way you deserve." "That person isn't me, is it?" "No, Elena. I'm sorry." Elena nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'll leave in 2 weeks. That's enough time for you to find a new assistant." That evening, Rebecca tried to remind Hector of his love for music. "Hector, when you were little, you were always listening to music. Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. You had memorized them all. I was a child then. Music doesn't change with age. You're still that child, you're just protecting yourself." "Rebecca, it's too late for me now." "It's never too late. Almira could teach you the violin. She's a patient teacher." "Why are you bringing Almira into this?" "Because you love her. She has a big enough heart to forgive you." That night, Hector touched the violin for the first time in years. He opened the display case and took the instrument in his hand. It felt heavy and foreign. His fingers wandered across the strings, but he couldn't make a sound. "Maybe one day," he whispered to himself. Margaret talked with Almira during the preparations for the concert. "Almira, I want to tell you something. Hector Henderson wants to talk to you." "Hector?" Almira was surprised. "Why?" "I don't know, but according to information I got from Rebecca, he's remorseful. Very remorseful." "Margaret, I've left those topics behind." "I know, dear. But everyone deserves a second chance. You're a very big-hearted woman. He treated me very badly." Yes, he did. But people can change. Maybe he's ready to change. Almira was experiencing mixed emotions. She had never considered talking to Hector before. When James dropped Clara off at home, he talked with Almira. Almira, Clara really should be in New York. The opportunities there don't exist here. James, Clara's happiness is important. She's happy here. But I'm her father. I want her. You were gone for 7 years, James. You can't just come back now and try to change everything. This argument tired Almira. On the one hand were James's rights as a father, on the other hand was Clara's happiness. Hector called Rebecca that night. Rebecca, could you give me Margaret Crawford's number? I want to talk to Almira. Finally. Of course, brother. But, Hector, be humble. Be sincere. I don't know what to say. Speak from your heart. Tell her how valuable she is. Hector got the number, but he couldn't call that night. Tomorrow, he thought. I'll gather my courage tomorrow. The first thing Hector did when he woke up that morning was look at the violin on the wall. Rebecca's words had been echoing in his head since the night before. Music doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. Maybe it was time to try again after all these years. This is crazy, he muttered to himself. Starting to learn the violin at 35. But he began searching the internet. Chicago violin teachers for adults. Sarah Williams's name came up at the top. She was the same Sarah Williams who was giving lessons to Almira. He picked up the phone and dialed the number. Ms. Williams? This is Hector Henderson. I'd like to consult with you about violin lessons. Mr. Henderson, I know you. Of course. When would you like to start? As early as possible. But this must remain confidential. Sarah smiled. I understand. I value my adult students' privacy. Meanwhile, at Margaret's house, Almira was making final preparations for the big concert. Tickets had sold out, and the 5,000-seat hall was almost full. Almira, who isn't coming to the concert? Margaret showed her the ticket list. Half of Chicago will be here. Clara had returned from school and was watching her mother rehearse. Mom, you've become very famous. Everyone at school is talking about you. Sweetie, I'm still your mom. This won't change. Clara looked thoughtful. Mom, do you miss Mr. Henderson? Almira lowered her violin. Why do you ask? Because I miss him. Was he really bad? Sweetie, he treated us badly, but he seems sad too. His eyes were always sad. Almira was surprised by her daughter's intuition. There was truth in Clara's innocent gaze. Margaret made an important decision while talking with Almira. Almira, I have a suggestion for you. Would you consider sending Hector a concert ticket? Margaret, this is crazy. Would he even come? I don't know. But it's a nice gesture. It's a sign of a big heart. He'll humiliate me again. He'll say, the cleaning lady is trying to become famous. No, dear. He's changed. According to information I got from Rebecca, he's a very different person now. James visited Almira that evening. This time was different. He seemed more humble and sincere. Almira, I want to talk to you. Not for Clara, for you. About what, James? I made terrible mistakes, leaving you pregnant and abandoning you. It's unforgivable. Almira listened silently. I was young and stupid back then. I was scared. I was scared of taking responsibility and of being a father. James. No, let me finish. You're a strong woman. You raised Clara alone. I could never do that. Now I'm coming back and messing everything up. You're her father. You have rights. But Clara's happiness is more important. She's happy here. She's happy with you. This sincere conversation affected Almira. James, you've changed too. People can change, Almira. Do you believe that? Margaret decided to mediate. She called Hector and asked for an appointment. Mr. Henderson, I'd like to talk to you about Almira. Mrs. Crawford, You love her. She doesn't harbor any hostility toward you anymore. Hector was surprised. Really? Yes, but the first step must come from you. Give her courage. How? First, apologize. Then tell her how you really feel. After hanging up, Hector thought for a long time. Margaret was right. He had to take the first step. Sarah Williams was surprised by Hector's first lesson. Mr. Henderson, your finger position is natural. Have you never played before? A very long time ago. When I was a child. Your muscle memory is still there. This is very promising. As Hector held the violin, he felt the fears from years ago, but this time was different. He wasn't trying to prove himself anymore. Ms. Williams, do you know Almira Bennett? Of course. I teach her too. She's a magnificent musician. I treated her very badly. I'm remorseful now. Sarah smiled understandingly. Music heals the soul, Mr. Henderson. Maybe it can bring you two together. That evening, Almira thought about Margaret's suggestion. Should she send Hector a ticket? It was a crazy idea, but... Clara, what would you think if I sent Mr. Henderson a concert ticket? Send it, Mom. Maybe he'll come and see how good you are. With Margaret's support, Almira made her decision. She prepared a special invitation for Hector. She wrote a short note on it. Music heals everything. Almira. Thomas Foster had noticed Hector's behavioral change. Hector, you've been acting differently lately. More peaceful. Thomas, do you think people can change? Of course. Do you want to change? Yes, I've made some big mistakes. Especially toward Almira. When Hector received the invitation, his heart raced. When he opened the envelope, he saw Almira's handwriting. Music heals everything. He called Rebecca. Rebecca, Almira sent me a concert invitation. This is great. Will you go? I don't know. If I go, though, I want to talk to her. Then go and open your heart. Hector thought about it for a long time that night. He should call Almira and thank her. Maybe it was time to tell her how he really felt. He picked up the phone and dialed her number. Hello? Almira. This is Hector. Has Hector really changed, or is this another game? Should Almira give him a second chance? Guess what will happen in the next chapter, and write your predictions in the comments. Almira. This is Hector. The silence on the phone seemed to last for minutes. Hector. Almira's voice was full of surprise. How did you get my number? I got it from Margaret Crawford. First, Almira, I want to thank you for the concert invitation. You're welcome. Almira was still too surprised to speak. I treated you very badly. I want to apologize. Hector's voice trembled. Hector. No, please, let me finish. I was a terrible person. I humiliated and belittled you. Although you were a magnificent musician, I saw you only as a cleaning lady. Almira held her breath. This wasn't Hector, at least, not the Hector she knew. I started learning to play the violin, Hector continued. I'm taking lessons from Sarah Williams. You? Violin. Almira couldn't believe it. Yes, and I'm really struggling. Maybe you could help me. Hector, I know it's strange, but I have a much better violin at home, a Steinway. It's a Steinway, a professional-grade instrument. It's much higher quality than the one at Sarah Williams's studio. Almira hesitated. Going back to that house? I don't know, Hector. Please, Almira. Just one lesson. Clara can come, too, of course. She's learning the violin, too, isn't she? When Almira heard Clara's name, she softened. Clara really missed you. I missed her, too. Both of you. This last sentence made Almira's heart race. Okay. We can come tomorrow afternoon. Really? Thank you, Almira. After hanging up, Almira called Margaret. Margaret, I talked to Hector. I'm going to give him violin lessons tomorrow. Oh dear. This is wonderful. The plan is working. What plan? Margaret smiled. The love plan, of course. You two are made for each other. The next day, Clara went to school, jumping with excitement. Mom, we're going to see Mr. Henderson today. I'll show him my violin. Yes, sweetie. But we're only going to observe lessons. I know, Mom. But I missed him. That afternoon, Almira and Clara came to Hector's villa for the first time in months. The villa was still magnificent, but the atmosphere was completely different. When Hector opened the door, he looked different. Warmer and more humble. Almira, Clara. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Henderson. Clara ran over and hugged him. He wasn't expecting this sincere gesture and was touched. I missed you too, Clara. Let's see if you've learned to play the violin. Yes. Mom is teaching me. Hector's music room was ready. There were magnificent, antique, valuable violins. Almira had never seen a collection like this. These violins are amazing, Hector. Where did you find them? I've collected them over the years, but I never played any of them. Just a collection. What a pity. These violins were made to be played. Hector picked up a violin. Could you show me? Where should I start? Almira smiled when she saw Hector's childlike excitement. Let's start with how to hold it. Hector's hands trembled as he tried to hold the instrument. Almira approached and placed her hands over his. Like this. Relax. The touch affected both of them. For the first time in years they were this close. Now hold the bow like this, Almira said, adjusting Hector's fingers. Don't squeeze too tight. The violin isn't your enemy, it's your friend. Clara sat in the corner, fascinated by the scene. Her mom and Mr. Henderson looked very nice together. Are you ready to play your first note? Almira asked. Hector took a breath and touched the bow to the strings. The sound that came out wasn't pleasant at all, but he was smiling. That was terrible, he laughed. The first try is always like that. When I first played, it sounded like a cat meowing. You never played badly. I did. My father still has the videos he recorded. This intimate moment relaxed both of them. As Hector watched Almira patiently teach, his admiration for her grew. An hour later, Clara took out her violin, too. Mr. Henderson, will you listen to me play, too? Of course, Clara. Clara played a simple melody, and Hector was genuinely impressed. This is magnificent, Clara. You're very talented. Mom teaches me. She's the best teacher. Hector looked at Almira. She's the best teacher and the best musician. Almira blushed. Thank you. When the lesson ended, Hector didn't want them to leave. Almira, would you like to have dinner? I mean, if you want, of course. I don't know. Please, Mom. Clara intervened. I'm starving. Almira couldn't help but laugh. Okay, but a short one. The atmosphere at the dinner table was warm. Hector played games with Clara and asked Almira questions about music. Almira, when is the concert? Next week. I'm very excited. I really want to come, too. If it's okay, of course. Of course it's okay. I already sent you an invitation. Clara had fallen asleep from fatigue. Hector took her in his arms and carried her to the guest room. She's grown so much, he said, putting her to bed. Yes, she's grown a lot while you were away. Almira, I'm really sorry. For everything. Hector, the past is in the past. What matters is now. What do you want now? Almira thought. I want peace. I want Clara to be happy. Me too. Maybe we could be together too. Like a family. This surprised Almira. Had Hector really changed? When Margaret called that evening, Almira told her everything. How did it go, dear? Very well, Margaret. Hector is very different. He's like a completely different person. So the plan is working. What plan? The love plan. You don't realize it, but he's in love with you. And you with him. When Almira heard these words, she felt her heart race. Maybe Margaret was right. 3 weeks had passed, and Almira and Clara started coming to Hector's villa every day. They had morning violin lessons, afternoons spent doing Clara's homework, and evenings together over dinner. It was as if they had become a family. Hector's violin playing improved every day. Almira, look. I can play this melody, he would exclaim, beaming with joy. Great, Hector. Your finger positions have improved a lot, Almira said proudly, smiling. You're a magnificent teacher. Patient and understanding. Almira blushed at the praise. She felt herself growing closer to Hector every day. One evening, after Clara had fallen asleep, Hector decided to tell Almira about his past. Almira, did I ever tell you about my childhood? You didn't say anything other than the trauma with the violin. I was a very lonely child. My mother constantly expected perfection, and my father was focused on the business world. Music was my only escape. Almira listened carefully. After that disgraceful night, my mother said, "The music time is over. Now, focus on serious business." From age 8, I was raised to be a businessman. That must have been very hard. Yes, I always missed music, but I was afraid of appearing weak. That's why I tried to control everyone. And you tried to control me too. Hector bowed his head in shame. Yes, you did it so easily, things I couldn't do. This made me both jealous and impressed. Clara was becoming more attached to Hector every day. "Mom, can Mr. Henderson be my father?" "Sweetie, James is your father. But Mr. Henderson shows me more love. He plays with me and teaches me the violin." Almira experienced mixed emotions when she heard this. Clara had really started to see Hector as a father figure. Once James accepted the situation, he called Almira. "Almira, I'm leaving Chicago." "Why, James?" "Clara was starting to get used to seeing you. But she loves Hector Henderson more. And so do you." "James." "No, Almira, it's true. I returned too late. Hector will take better care of Clara than I will. You're her real father. Being a father isn't just about DNA. It's about love. And that man loves you both." Elena had regretted resigning since the day she left. Besides being in love with him, she realized that he was also a good boss. She decided to go to the villa and apologize. "Sir, can I come back?" "Elena? But you had resigned." "I know. But I stopped being angry with you. You love Almira, and that's normal. I've accepted that too." Hector softened when he saw Elena's sincerity. "Elena, you're a great assistant. Of course you can come back." "Thank you, sir. Almira really suits you. She changed you." Margaret was busy organizing the big concert. "Almira, this will be Chicago's concert of the year. We've sold 5,000 tickets, and 50 reporters from the press are coming. I'm very excited, Margaret. You're ready, dear. Hector will be sitting in the front row. Will he come?" "Of course. He's your biggest fan now." The emotional bond between Hector and Almira grew stronger every day. One evening, during violin lessons, Almira stopped to correct Hector's hand position. "Almira," Hector whispered. "Yes. I'm in love with you." This confession surprised them both. Almira held her breath. "Hector. I know. It's too early. But I can't hide it anymore. You and Clara have changed my life." Almira felt her eyes welling up. "I love you too, Hector. But I'm scared." "Why are you scared?" "Because I've suffered so much in the past. With both James and you." Hector took Almira's hands. "I'm not the same as before. I will never hurt you again." "How can I be sure of that?" "Because I've learned that I can't live without you. I missed you every day for those 2 months." Clara came downstairs and saw them holding hands. "Mom, Mr. Henderson, are you going to get married?" They both laughed. Clara's innocent question had broken the tension. "Maybe, sweetheart," Almira smiled. "Maybe." That evening, Margaret called Almira to discuss the concert. "Darling, tomorrow is the final rehearsal. Are you ready?" "Yes, Margaret. Hector is coming too." "Wonderful. This will be a big night for him too." "What do you mean?" "Because he's going on stage too." "What do you mean?" "We're going to surprise everyone. He'll play the violin with you too. He'll join in with a simple melody." Almira was shocked. "Margaret, this is risky. But it's so romantic. Chicago will talk about this for months." When Rebecca visited Hector, she found him very happy. "You've become a different person, brother. Almira changed me, Rebecca. Do you love her?" "Madly. And Clara is like my daughter." "Then what are you waiting for?" "I'm going to propose after the concert." "Really?" "Yes, Margaret is helping. I'm going to propose on stage." Rebecca hugged her brother. "Finally, you're happy." Almira thought before going to sleep that night. Had Hector really changed? Could she trust him? Her heart said yes, but her mind told her to be careful. But Clara's happiness was more important than anything. Clara was very happy with Hector. "Maybe it's worth taking the risk," she murmured to herself. The day before the concert, Hector decided to confess his love to Almira. While walking in Margaret's garden, he brought up the subject. Almira, tomorrow night will be very special. Not just for the concert. What do you mean, Hector? Hector stopped and took Almira's hands. I love you, Almira. I don't just love you, I'm in love with you. I can't live without you. Almira's heart raced. Hector, I know I treated you badly in the past. But I'm different now. You changed me. I love you too, Hector, but… Almira hesitated. But what? I'm scared. What if you change again? What if you treat me badly again? Never. Almira, you are the meaning of my life. Clara too. You are my family. Almira couldn't hold back her tears. Give me time, Hector. Let's talk after tomorrow's concert. Of course, as much time as you want. The big day had arrived. The 2,000-seat hall at the Chicago Symphony Center was completely full. Backstage, Almira was preparing, her hands trembling. Mom, you look very excited, said Clara, standing next to her mother. She looked elegant in her little black dress. Yes, sweetheart. This is a very important night for me. Margaret came backstage. Almira, are you ready? The hall is completely sold out. Yes, Margaret. But I'm very nervous. You'll be perfect. We have a little surprise for you. What surprise? Hector will also go on stage with you. He'll play a simple duet with you. What? Almira was shocked. Margaret, this is risky. But it's so romantic. People will never forget it. Sarah Williams came backstage to offer some final advice. Almira, you're ready. Just don't forget to breathe. The hall was packed. Margaret Crawford sat in the front row with Rebecca Henderson beside her. Thomas Foster sat with his business colleagues. Patricia Moore sat with her cameras. David Anderson sat with the recording crew. They were all ready and waiting. Hector sat in the back, excited and watching the nervousness. He was eager to see Almira on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Almira Bennett. The announcement was made. When Almira came on stage, she received a great deal of applause. She took her violin and stood before the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. She began playing Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 3. From the first notes, the hall was enchanted. Almira's music wasn't just technically perfect, it was an emotional journey. Every note told a story. Clara watched her mother from backstage, tears of pride streaming down her face. Mom plays so beautifully, she whispered to Sarah Williams. You'll play like her one day too, Sarah smiled. When the first piece ended, the hall erupted in a standing ovation. But Margaret's planned surprise hadn't happened yet. Ladies and gentlemen, Almira said into the microphone. We have a very special guest tonight. Hector Henderson will join me. The hall was shocked. When Hector came on stage, murmurs began. What was this millionaire doing on stage? Hector taught me how to play the violin, Almira lied. Now he's learning too. When Hector took the violin, his hands trembled, but he was determined. Almira looked at him with a smile. Are you ready? She whispered. I'm ready for anything with you. They began playing Amazing Grace. Hector played the notes correctly, and Almira played the harmonies beautifully. Everyone was surprised by this scene. The arrogant millionaire had become a humble student playing a duet with his former maid. Clara watched from backstage happy. They harmonized so well. Margaret's eyes were full of tears. Her plan was working perfectly. When the duet ended, the audience went wild. There was a standing ovation, screams, and whistles. Chicago had never seen anything like this. Hector turned to Almira and spoke into the microphone. Almira Bennett brought me back to music. But more importantly, she brought me back to love. The hall held its breath. Almira, you forgave me. You gave me a second chance. Now, I want to ask you the most important question of my life. Hector took a small box out of his jacket pocket, got down on one knee, and said, Almira Bennett, will you marry me? The hall erupted. There was applause, screams, and voices shouting, Say yes. Almira looked at Hector in shock. Tears filled her eyes. Clara ran from backstage onto the stage. Mom, say yes. Please say yes. The scene created complete chaos. 2,000 people stood and applauded while the press took photos and recorded videos. Almira looked at Hector. There was sincere love in his eyes. She saw Clara's happy face. This man had really changed. Yes, she whispered. Yes, she shouted to the stage. Hector stood up and embraced Almira. Clara hugged them too. The hall erupted. Margaret watched from backstage, feeling triumphant. Mission accomplished. Patricia Moore shouted, taking note. This is Chicago's story of the year. David Anderson instructed the recording crew. Record everything. This is a historic moment. Rebecca applauded with tears in her eyes. Her brother was finally happy. Elena watched from her office on TV and smiled. Seeing Hector happy made her happy too. Sarah Williams hugged Clara and said, "He's going to be your new dad." Thomas Foster told his business colleagues, "This is the best PR campaign ever." When the concert ended, no one wanted to leave the hall. Everyone wanted to be part of this historic moment. Almira, Hector, and Clara stood on stage, holding hands, a new family of 3. "Are we really a family now?" Clara asked. "Yes, sweetheart," Almira replied with a smile. "We're a real family now." Hector hugged them both. Forever and always. When the concert ended, the foyer of the Chicago Symphony Center was completely packed. When Almira, Hector, and Clara emerged from backstage, a huge crowd was waiting for them. Cameras were flashing, and everyone wanted to talk to them. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Henderson, could you turn and look at us?" The photographers kept calling out. Patricia Moore from the Chicago Tribune stepped forward to conduct the first interview. "Almira, how do you feel tonight? About the concert and the marriage proposal?" "Patricia, it still feels like a dream," Almira said, smiling and showing her engagement ring. "This is the most beautiful night of my life." "Hector, what does this moment mean to you?" "I have never been happier," Hector said, holding Almira's hand tightly. "Almira has made me a better person." Clara seemed lost among the reporters until David Anderson noticed her. "Clara, what's your opinion? What do you think about your new dad?" "I'm very happy. Now I have a real family." Her innocent answer impressed all the reporters. Margaret Crawford was thrilled with the organization's success. This is Chicago's event of the year. Art, love, and second chances. The perfect combination. A young reporter from Chicago Magazine approached Margaret. "Mrs. Crawford, how did you plan this organization?" "Oh dear. This wasn't just an organization. It was a love story waiting to happen. I just played the role of Cupid." Sarah Williams came to Clara and hugged her. "Clara, your mother enchanted everyone tonight. You'll be like her too. I'm going to learn to play the violin too. Hector will teach me." Hearing this, "Hector Daddy," expression moved Hector very much. Now, he would be not only Almira's boyfriend, but also Clara's father. When Rebecca found her brother backstage, she was in tears. "Hector, you've really changed. How proud our mother would have been." "Rebecca, thank you. You always supported me. Now we need to start making wedding plans." Rebecca clapped her hands excitedly. "When are you thinking?" "I'm leaving it to Almira," Hector said, looking at her. "You decide, my love." "My love." Almira laughed. "That sounds nice." Elena watched the live broadcast on television at the office. She was watching with the new assistant candidates and making comments. "Mr. Henderson has really changed. You see how love changes a person." Thomas Foster was pleased with this development in terms of the company's image. He was proud when he made statements to the press. "At Henderson Tech, we're happy to be part of this beautiful love story. Mr. Henderson's transformation reflects our company's values." "Mr. Foster, how will this event affect the company's image?" "Positively. People can change, grow, and learn. This is the most beautiful example of modern business." David Anderson wanted to discuss the details of the recording agreement with Almira. "Almira, after tonight's viral moment, your value has increased significantly. International opportunities are coming." "David, I just want to enjoy this moment for now." "Of course. But we'll discuss serious business after the honeymoon." Margaret decided to make a special statement to the press. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight wasn't just a concert. It was about redemption, forgiveness, and love triumphing over pride. Mrs. Crawford, would you consider turning this story into a movie? Hollywood already called. Margaret smiled. 3 studios are interested. The crowd in the foyer lasted for hours. Everyone wanted to be part of this historic moment. Meanwhile, on social media, the hashtag Almira Hector love story had become a trending topic. Victoria Foster was analyzing the situation with her friend, a social media expert. This already has 2 million views on Instagram. Videos are going viral on TikTok. This is PR gold, her friend replied. Meanwhile, James Mitchell was following the situation from New York. Seeing his ex-girlfriend happy saddened and relieved him. He could see that Clara was truly happy. She was starting to fall asleep from exhaustion. Hector took her in his arms. Our princess is tired. She's your daughter now, too, Almira said softly. Our daughter, Hector corrected. As midnight approached, the crowd began to disperse. The last reporters took their photos and left. How did this night go by so fast? Almira asked. The most beautiful nights go by like this, Margaret replied. But this is just the beginning, dear. On the way home, Clara slept in Hector's lap. Almira quietly watched them. You really changed, Hector, she whispered. You changed me, Almira. You and Clara. Are you worried about the future? No, because now I know what I want. I want to be with you. Forever. When Margaret dropped them off at home, she offered one final piece of advice. Almira, morning shows will call you tomorrow. Be prepared. Will this craziness ever end? Not until you're so happy you don't care. Rebecca couldn't control her excitement about the wedding plans. I'm going to hire a wedding planner. When do you want it? Spring? Summer? Slow down, Rebecca, Hector laughed. We just got engaged a few hours ago. But I can't wait to be an aunt. Meanwhile, Thomas Foster had an emergency meeting with the PR team at his office. We need to maintain this momentum. Positive press should continue. Sir, we could consider establishing a charitable foundation. One that supports music education. Excellent idea. How about the Henderson Music Foundation? Almira could be the spokesperson. When they got home, all 3 were exhausted. But their happiness made it all worthwhile. Today was the most beautiful day of my life, Clara said before going to sleep. For us too, sweetheart, Almira said as she stroked her daughter's hair. Tomorrow will be beautiful too, Hector added. And the day after that. 6 months later, the Chicago Symphony Center was full again. This time, however, it was not for a concert, but for Almira and Hector's wedding. Margaret Crawford had planned the event perfectly. These are the most beautiful wedding decorations. Clara jumped happily in her white bridesmaid dress. Mom, you look like a princess. Almira stood in front of the mirror in her elegant white wedding dress. Thank you, sweetheart. You look beautiful, too. Am I really a bridesmaid? Yes. You're my most special bridesmaid. Rebecca was checking the final preparations. Almira, everything is perfect. The musicians are ready, the flowers are magnificent, and the guest list is complete. Margaret entered the bridal room. Darling, are you ready? Hector is waiting for you and is very nervous. I'm nervous too, Margaret. This is your happy day. Enjoy every moment. The hall was filled with 200 guests. Hector stood next to Thomas Foster, waiting for Almira. Elena, his closest friend, gave him courage. You'll be a perfect couple, sir. Elena, thank you. Your friendship is very valuable. Sarah Williams began playing the wedding march on the piano. The doors opened and Clara entered first, scattering flowers as she walked. When Almira entered the hall on Margaret's arm, tears filled Hector's eyes. She looked beautiful and radiant. You look stunning, Hector whispered when Almira came to his side. You too, handsome. The officiant began his speech. Dearly beloved, we gather here today. During the exchange of vows, they were both moved. Almira, you have made me a better person. I promise to love you and Clara unconditionally, Hector said, his voice trembling. Hector, you gave me a second chance. I promise to fill our lives with music and love. Clara brought the rings. Here are the rings. Now we're becoming a family. I now pronounce you husband and wife." When they kissed, the hall filled with applause. Clara ran over and hugged them. A perfect family picture. A surprise came during the reception. James Mitchell had come to the wedding from New York. "Almira, congratulations. You look very happy." "James, thank you for coming. May I dance with Clara?" "Of course." As James danced with Clara, he chatted with her. "Clara, are you happy?" "Very happy. Daddy Hector is teaching me violin." "He's teaching me the violin. I'm glad. You deserve everything. You're my dad too. I have 2 dads now." James smiled. This arrangement was perfect. In the evening, it was time for the special performance. Almira, Hector, and Clara came on stage. Each of them held a violin. "Ladies and gentlemen, the family concert," Margaret announced. The 3 of them began playing Canon in D. Almira led the melody, Hector played the harmony, and Clara played the simple note. Perfect harmony. The audience gave them a standing ovation. This wasn't just a performance, it was a family celebration. Margaret watched with tears of joy. "My plan worked perfectly." Rebecca felt proud watching her brother. "Mom would be so proud." Thomas Foster told his business partners, laughing, "Best investment ever." Elena was taking videos. "This is a magical moment." At the end of the night, Almira and Hector stood on their balcony at home. Clara was sleeping inside. "Is this real?" Almira asked. "Very real, Mrs. Henderson," Hector smiled. "Mrs. Henderson sounds perfect." The violin on the wall had a new meaning inside. It used to symbolize trauma. Now it symbolized love and second chances. Before going to sleep, Clara asked, "Mom, are we really a happy family?" "Yes, sweetheart. The happiest family. Forever. Forever and always." Margaret was satisfied as she closed her organizational note. Another successful love story. There was silence in the villa, but it was a peaceful silence. Family silence. Hector and Almira stood hand in hand on the balcony, watching the stars. "What's next?" Almira asked. "Life. Music. Love. Family. Everything wonderful." Soft violin music came from Clara's room. The little girl was practicing. "She's as talented as her mother," Hector said proudly. "Like her parents," Almira corrected. "Both of them." The Chicago skyline sparkled in front of them. It was a city of second chances, a city of love, a city of music. Almira, Hector, and Clara were starting their new lives as a perfect family. The sound of the violin was now the sound of happiness.